until we finish the recitation. Sounds good? So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Who would like to start with the beginning of Ayah 80? أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم فلما. And you read 4 ayat. Who would like to start? I'll have the brothers start today. Who wants to start on the brother's side? Surah Yusuf. Bismillah, mashallah, Allah Akbar. It's your first time here, right? It's in this class, mashallah. Yes, it's Surah Yusuf. 80. 80. 80, yes. Who wants to go? Brothers, you want to pass the opening baton to the sisters? Is that what we're... Oh, you're going to read? Okay, mashallah. What's your name? Yusuf. Oh, and we're reading a surah named after you. Bismillah, mashallah. You're named after it. One or the other. Okay, go ahead, Yusuf. Start from فَلَمَّا أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. Ayah 80. 80. Page 245. It starts فَلَمَّا اسْتَيْأَسُوا مِنْهُ. No, you change your mind? 4 ayahs. Oh, can you give me a second, Yusuf? I'm so sorry. Sheikh Muhammad, if there's a mistake in the recitation, please correct it. Oh, Imam Muhammad then. None of those? Okay, inshallah. If there's a mistake, you're responsible for a correction. Because I think there was a mistake last time and I missed it. Inshallah? Okay. Go ahead, Brother Yusuf.
شهدنا إلا بأعيننا وما كنا للغيب حافظين واسأل القرية التي كنا فيها والعير التي أقبلنا فيها وإنا لصادقون قال بل سولت لكم أنفسكم أمرا فصبر جميل عسى الله أن يأتيني بهم جميعا إنه هو العليم الحكيم.
Sisters, who wants to read on this side? Ala, you want to read? I called you Ala this time. Any of the sisters want to read? Okay, brothers, you want to read again? We're going to come. Yeah, you can go ahead. وابيضت
قال إنما أشكو بثي وحزني إلى الله وأعلم من الله ما لا تعلمون يا بني اذهبوا فتحسسوا من يوسف وأخيه ولا تيأسوا
من روح
الله إنه ييأس
لأنه
لا ييأس من روح الله إلا القوم
من روح الله. Again, إنه لا
ييأس من روح الله إلا القوم
الكافرون. Brothers, Jazakallah khairan ayah. Brothers, go ahead.
لما دخلوا عليه قالوا يا أيها العزيز مسنا وأهلنا الضر وجئنا ببضاعة مزجاة فأوف لنا الكيل وتصدق علينا إن الله يجزي المتصدقين. قال هل علمتم ما فعلتم بيوسف وأخيه إذ أنتم إنك لأنت يوسف قال أنا يوسف وهذا أخي قد من الله علينا إنه من يتقي ويصبر فإن الله لا يضيع أجر المحسنين قالوا تالله لقد آثرك الله علينا وإن كنا لخاطئين.
One more. I think so.
قال لا تثريب عليكم اليوم يغفر الله لكم وهو أرحم الراحمين.
MashaAllah, good job. Somebody on this side, the girl's side? Go ahead. But you have to read loud because brothers have to hear you. And I have to hear you too. MashaAllah, Jazakallah khairan. Brothers? Go ahead, Anas.
قالوا يا أبانا استغفر لنا ذنوبنا إننا خاطئون قال سوف أستغفر لكم ربي إنه هو الغفور الرحيم فلما دخلوا على يوسف آوى إليه
أبا.
وقال ادخلوا مصر إن شاء الله آمنين.
One more.
ورفع أبويه على العرش وخروا له سجدا وقال يا أبت هذا تأويل
رؤياي.
رؤياي من قبل قد جعله ربي حقا وقد أحسن بي إذ أخرجني من السجن وجاء بكم من البدو من بعد أن نزغ الشيطان بيني وبين إن ربي لطيف لما يشاء إنه هو العليم الحكيم.
MashaAllah, Jazakallah khairan. Sadaqallah Azim. Jazakallah khairan to all of you who raised your hands and recited. Those who recite fluently get how many hasanat? 10 per letter. And those who struggle and struggle for the sake of Allah and are trying to recite they get more, right? So I want all of you to be courageous enough to say, I will read, even if you have to be corrected, even if you stutter over a word over and over. It's part of the learning process. And it is, alhamdulillah, very much rewarded. So for those of you who did not attend on Sunday, we will do a very, very quick review of the highlights of what we did on Sunday. Actually, to see also of those who attended, how much they remember. It was a section of Prophet Yusuf's story when what happened in that part? When he got out of jail and? Yes, he came like the financial minister, basically. Or maybe it was a combination of finance minister and agriculture minister, right? Taking care of what was being harvested and make sure that it is being well divided so that it would last for the 7 years of goodness. and again through 7 more years of hardship, right? That was the dream of the king, that they were trying to avoid the hardship and the starvation of the people. What did we learn from Yusuf in his position? What are some things that stay in your mind that you learned about Yusuf in that part of his life? Ala. Mm-hmm. Okay, very good. So Allah actually is reminding us of one of the very last ayats that we talked about last week, is that when it was like a cup that was very very expensive or special to the king. It was put in basically Yusuf made sure it was put in Binyamin's bag, in his bag that he would carry some of the grains back to his state in, so that he could keep his brother with him. And eventually, the idea was that when they said, "Oh no, we didn't take anything. It wasn't any of us." And then finally, they found it in Benjamin's bag, in Benjamin's bag, and they said, "Oh yeah, he has a brother that he stole, just like he's a thief." Like who are they referring to? Yusuf, right? And they're talking to Yusuf, and the way that he just maintains his demeanor, he does not react. Usually what we do as every day, somebody says something about you, offends you, or says something about you that's not true, blames you for something that you've never done before. You're fast to react, and it's like tit for tat. Are you going to say this about me? I'm going to reply with something even worse if I can, right? I'm going to take you down, just like you're kind of throwing me under the bus. But Yusuf had no reaction, right? He did not. He knew that they were talking about him, but he had no reaction. He maintained his dignity and his akhlaq. And so we talked about how sometimes when you're in a situation where somebody has hurt you, sometimes when you reply right away, that person becomes, you come off so like attacking them, that you're aggressive and they become defensive. And so they don't even learn their lesson that what they did is wrong, or they don't even realize that they hurt you. And because you are aggressive, because you're upset, and they become defensive, then nobody gains anything. And it goes back and forth, back and forth. So the right thing to do is exactly what you said. Hold your composure. It doesn't mean you're going to forget, but come back another time when you are less upset, and control and say, "Akhi, you know what? The other day when you said this about me, it really rubbed me the wrong way, and I don't think that I deserve that statement from you. You shouldn't have said that to me." And when you say it in this way, it makes him or her realize, "Well, I'm sorry, I didn't really mean it." And then you forgive each other, and life goes on. And so you wait until you're in the right space, the right time, and you have the right eloquence and the right composure to speak to the person. And it's also very important, we learn in communication to be to say I. So when somebody hears you say, you don't say, "You said this to me, and you did this, and you should not have said that to me." That you at somebody is very attacking, and usually they come back very defensive. But you say, "I felt like this when I heard this from you, and this made me feel." You talk about you, how that statement made you feel. And that usually makes that person actually learn their lesson more. They kind of hear you and they say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't really mean to say it that way." Or, "I shouldn't have said that." And so it becomes a better conversation, and both people learn and both people find a solution to their problem. So it's a good lesson to learn. But we learn from Yusuf about that, not to react to everything. So that's one of the lessons we learned. What else did we learn from Yusuf in that point of his life? Go ahead. Say again. Rags to riches. Okay, so this is a part of his life where he goes from being somebody who's thrown into a well and living as a slave in a mansion, and then being in prison for years and years, and all of a sudden he is the finance agriculture minister of one of the most civilized nations at that time. And people are coming from all over, his own brothers are coming from Philistine all the way to Egypt to get food from him, because the people here from all over, the Bedouins and the tribes here, that the king over there and his finance minister were able to save enough food to prevent all of this area from hunger, right? So he does, but his rags to riches are because of his skills and his knowledge and his ihsan and his how he does things to the best of his ability. right? How he does things to the best of his ability. So the fact that he went from rags to riches, how did he get that position? How did he get it? He asked for it. So we talked about that before. Many people say, oh, as Muslims, we have to be humble. We're not supposed to ask for leadership positions. We just always have to, act like, that when you ask for a position, that means, it's not a good part of your character. Why did we talk about that last time? I think this is an important part also. What did we learn about that? Is it okay to ask for position? Why and when? Your intention is very important. And you have the skill and the knowledge. So Yusuf is a prophet. And he asked, he said, put me in charge of this thing. I will know how to do it right. Right? And his intention is to make the best situation for the people of Egypt and beyond. Right? So asking for a certain position, if you truly know that you have the skills and the abilities to do it right, and your intention is to do it for Sabilillah and to serve the creation of Allah, to serve the Creator through His creation, right? Taking care of the people around you. And as long as you maintain that, you understand that you have the best knowledge and the best skills, and you have the best intention, then that position is good for you. But part of being in a position also is renewing your intention regularly. Am I still doing this for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Am I still doing this to serve people, to take care of others, to do the best for others? Or is it now making me feel good about myself? Do I now think that I'm the only one that can do this? So when these things, the shaitan starts playing with your mind, so renewing your intention is when you can maintain a leadership position in something. And also making sure that you maintain your skills, continuing your education, making sure that this thing that you're doing, you are at this point the best person to do it. And if somebody new comes to the community, somebody new comes into the space, they maybe have more creative solutions, they have the latest understanding of this system, then you have to be ready to say, you know what, my brother or my sister that just came new, I think they are now more qualified than I am. And I can pass on the leadership baton to the next person. And that, because my intention is for the best of society. My intention is not that I be a leader. So that's why renewing your intention and being very much aware of your intention. So this concept of muraqab, being very much aware of your intentions and your actions and what you're doing, and ready to say, this person is now better than I am, or it's time for me to move on, and things like this. So this is when it is halal or permissible to ask for position. This is what we learned from Prophet Yusuf. So these are some of the major lessons that we learned from him in these ayat that we read, from about 55 to 80. Today, inshallah, we're going to start talking about ayat 80. So we know we know that when Prophet Yaqub allowed Benjamin to go with his brothers to Egypt, he told them, don't do what you did with Yusuf. You better not come back without your little brother, right? And they promised him, they gave him an oath. We promised that because when we take him with us, the king wants to meet him. The king found out that we have another brother, and he told us that he wants to meet all of us at one time. And he's not going to give us a lot of food unless we bring Benjamin with us. And we promise we will not lose him. We will come back with him. And when they get to Egypt, then Yusuf ﷺ has his plan, and he finds a way to keep Benjamin with him, right? So now they have to go back, and they even tell Yusuf, not knowing that he's Yusuf, they tell the minister that take any one of us. Benjamin has to go back because we promised our brother we wouldn't lose him. And he said, no, I can't. This is the law of the land. This is the decision that we decide together about how we would punish the one who is a thief. So I can't take somebody in his place, right? And so they go, and from the ayat we have a feeling that they actually tried multiple times to talk to Yusuf, talk to the minister, tried it, and he didn't budge. So the oldest brother says, you know what? I am not going back with you again without our little brother. When we did that at Yusuf's time, it was enough of a hardship to face our father many years ago. This time I will stay in Egypt, and all of you guys go and tell him the news and find out what we're supposed to do. But I will stay here as long as we have to leave Benjamin behind. And so the brothers do actually return, right? When they gave up on the situation, they returned to their tribes, to the lands of Palestine. They were Bedouin people until now, to their father, and they tell him, we left our brother behind. And the first thing that their father replies is what? What does he say to them when they come back? He said, you came back without him just like you came back without Yusuf. And they say, you're still mentioning Yusuf? Right? So remember, when they got rid of Yusuf, it was to get rid of Yusuf, to remove him from their father's mind. But they were not able to. So that he said, you came back without him and without Yusuf. And he says to them, go back and look for both of them. Go back and find them. Right? Because I know what you don't know. He knows, Prophet Yaqub knows that Yusuf is still alive somewhere. Right? How does he know? Go ahead. The original dream, right? As we said, from the original dream that Yusuf. So he says, go back and look for both of them. So they go back. Okay. And then when he feels sad, in this part of the story, we really learn about the feelings of Prophet Yaqub, the sadness that he feels, right? And when they come back without Binyamin, it must have brought back like the floodgates of the grief again, right? It'd been so many years since Yusuf was gone, and maybe he had kind of, learned to take day in and day out. And all of a sudden they come back without Binyamin. And the story tells us here that his grief overtook him. And at this point, this is when his eyes became blind from crying so much. Yusuf was a prophet, yes. And we know that because of his character, because he also always mentioned Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he made da'wah in the prison is one of the biggest signs that he was a prophet. The way that you must have missed a class where we talk about how even in the worst of times, in the prison with convicts and criminals, he was calling them to la ilaha illallah, right? So that was proof that he's a prophet. The fact that he could interpret dreams is also part of proof that he was a prophet. So he turns away from them. He says to them, go back and look for your brothers. And then he turns وَتَوَلَّى عَنْهُمْ. He turns away from them, and his heart is just becomes so overwhelmed with grief. His eyes tear again. He starts crying and he becomes blind. At this point, their father becomes blind. And he says to them, قَالَ إِنَّمَا أَشْكُ بَثِّي وَحُزْنِي إِلَى اللَّهِ. I complain of my anguish to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I complain of my pain to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? What do we learn from Yaqub about this? What do we learn from him about grief and about dealing with grief and sadness? Mm-hmm. He's complaining. I complain of my anguish and my sorrow to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Good. So always, when you're in pain, turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Have that connection with Allah. Talk to Him. Tell Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. Complain to Him when something hurts, right? So that Allah can help you deal with this grief that you have. What else do we learn from Yaqub about dealing with grief? Go ahead, brother. That you should be thankful, okay? He lost 2 sons, he still has 10 more. Very good. Yeah. Although those 2 sons were the most beloved to him, but he was still patient. What else? Good. Okay, very good. The human nature of allowing yourself to deal with grief. So can you be a believer and grieve? Can you be? Can you be sad? Some people say you should have iman, you should have faith. Why are you sad? Everything is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can be a believer and cry and grieve. Did not our Prophet Muhammad grieve when his son Ibrahim died? Did he not grieve every time he remembered Khadija? Right? So grief and sadness is allowed. It's allowed. Dealing with it and connecting with it, but don't let it affect your faith. Don't let it make you go to the point where you say, why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did this happen? Why, how and why? And these questions, Allah is all wise. Allah knows what is best for you. And Allah knows why this should happen at this point in this time. And when this pain will be alleviated, Allah knows when. But it is okay to be a believer and to be faithful and to still grieve. That is okay. And we learn that from our prophets, and specifically from Yaqub. It's okay. And it's okay to show that grief and to be human. And this is the beauty of having prophets that are human, because they teach us how to deal with our human emotions, right? We don't have prophets that are angels, or we don't have prophets that they have these feelings, and we learn from them. And so he says to them, I complain of my grief to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the next ayah, he says, the ayah that you were reading, ayah, وَلَا تَيْأَسُوا مِنْ رَوْحِ اللَّهِ إِنَّهُ لَا يَيْأَسُ مِنْ رَوْحِ اللَّهِ إِلَّا الْقَوْمُ الْكَافِرِينَ. Never lose hope. Yes is to the opposite of hope, right? What do they despair almost. Despair. So the Yaqub says, never lose hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Only those who are kafirin, who disbelieve in Allah, lose hope. As believers, we can never lose hope. And this is what Yaqub teaches us. Yes, we can grieve. Yes, we can mourn. Yes, we can ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us stronger. We can ask Allah to show us the light at the end of the tunnel. We can ask Allah to make things easier for us. But we should, at the same time, we never lose hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Losing hope is a sign of disbelief. Because that means you don't believe that Allah is all powerful, Allah is all wise, Allah is all capable. Allah said, "Kun fayakun." If Allah wants, He can say, "Be it is," and it will, and things can be as you want them to. So that losing hope is a sign that you've lost understanding of the capability and the strength and the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The one who provides and the one who takes care and the one who takes care and supports us, right? So we can grieve, but we always have hope. And this is what Yaqub had. Yaqub had hope for so many years that his son Yusuf would be returned to him and that he would be in a better place. Another thing that we learn from, if we go back a few ayat, where Yaqub also says, فَصَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ. The concept of beautiful, Jamil is beautiful, and Sabr is patience. Beautiful patience. How does Yaqub show us beautiful patience? I want you guys to describe it. You can read the ayah. Good. What is Sabrun Jamil? We're talking about patience now. What kind of patience does Yaqub teach us about? Okay. Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah. We're going to talk about it today. Okay. So sabr can be rewarded. Yes. Very good. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Good. So like the brother in the back was saying, even when you're going through difficulty, as it goes through, as a patience, as you're going through it, you're also very grateful. You're also saying Alhamdulillah, right? As that's part of having beautiful patience, right? Good. So there's a connection between trusting in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, having patience in Allah's decree and trusting Him. Because that's ultimate trust. Knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what's best for me. I trust Him and this test that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I'm going to pass this test. Right? So having the Jamil, Sabr is passing the test. So being able to say that everything will, inna lillahi wa inna raji'un, we belong to Allah and to Him will return. This is what's meant to be. And having long-term patience and carrying that, again, Yaqub teaches us, maintaining that, just like Yusuf had sabr for so many years. Sabr for the days that he must have spent in the well, the years that he spent in the torment of the Aziz's wife, the years that he spent in the situation of being in the jail. He had this beautiful patience. He was always positive. He was always optimistic. He was always lurking to be as helpful and as best as he can, regardless of of things around him. So sabrun jameel also means not to let these kind of things turn you into a person that is always down and always upset and sees only black and not good to those around you because you're frustrated. And maintaining your akhlaq even in times of difficulty shows that you have beautiful patience, right? You maintain a beautiful character in times of difficulty. So Yaqub says to them, Sabrun Jamil, I will have beautiful patience. I will complain only to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I will never lose hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All of those things are related, right? And so then they return again to try to find out, to try to bring back. They listen to their father and they return to Egypt. They know Benjamin is in Egypt with the minister. They want to bring him back. So they say, so they go back to the minister, right? فلما دخلوا عليه قالوا يا أيها العزيز. When they go back to Yusuf and they say, oh, the Aziz, oh, the minister, difficulty has touched our family. We come back for you now, not only looking for our brother, but also we need some more food. But the money that we brought, or the goods that we brought, are very little and not very worth much. But they say to him, but we know that you are a good person and you're gonna take care of us. And this is when, at this point, when they come back to him again for the third time, what does Yusuf say to them? This is when he exposes him. He tells them who he is, right? قال هل علمتم ما فعلتم بيوسف? Do you know what you did to Yusuf? He asked him a question. And at that moment, everything kind of, they see it. This is Yusuf. And they say to him, oh, are you Yusuf? Right? He says to them, do you not know what you did to Yusuf? And then they realize that he's Yusuf at that moment. SubhanAllah. And everything must have thus, and you can just imagine even from قالوا أئنك لأنت يوسف? You are Yusuf? Like they must have been like so surprised. Because their little brother that they threw in the well when he was 10, 11, 12 years old, they thought that they had got rid of him, is actually now the right-hand man of the king of Egypt, the wealthiest civilization in the world right now, because they're able to actually give food to those around them, feed their own people and feed those around them, right? Are you the one? And so they are surprised to find that this brother that they had done this to, so many, had reached this position. And they say, are you Yusuf? And he says, قال أنا يوسف. Yes, I am Yusuf, and this is my brother, right? And he says, yeah, read it. Exactly. So Yusuf says, he knows that they're surprised because they can't even believe that their brother who is now in this position. And so the first thing he says to them, I didn't get here because I had this and I had that and I know this and I know that. He says to them, surely Allah has been gracious upon me. It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that gave me this position. I'm here because of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So always associating everything, all the good, to Allah, back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not to the fact, and he says to them, those who are patient and those who have taqwa. Those who have taqwa and those who have patience, right? Those who are always aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and they have sabr. Allah never, لا يضيع أجر المحسنين. Again, the word muhsinin. Allah never is lost the reward of the muhsin. This is, I think, number 5 or 6 time that the word al-muhsinin is mentioned in Surah Yusuf in regards to Prophet Yusuf. As long, and we've said this before, as long as you maintain your ihsan throughout the trial and tribulation, Allah will reward you. Part of being muhsin is being conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Part of being muhsin is having that beautiful patience and knowing that Allah never will lose your reward. You are rewarded. Be you get rewarded in this dunya by something great happening to you, by getting to some position, by getting some wealth, by being very healthy, by being very famous, or even better, by being rewarded in the akhirah, right? Allah never loses, it is never lost, the patience and the struggle of those who go through the patience with dignity, with ihsan. and a beautiful character. So Yusuf tells them right away, this has nothing to do with me. Just like when he was telling his friends in the jail, what did he tell them when he was going to interpret their dream? Allah gave me knowledge. Yeah, the ability. I'm not interpreting your dream because I have some sort of magical power and I'm all, and I'm all. When they ask him, the first thing he says, this is Allah's benefit on me. This is Allah's ni'mah on me. This is always knowing. So we learn from Yusuf here that we're always attributing everything good, not to your hard work and your studying and your brains and your muscles and your. No, all of this has nothing to do with you. It has to do with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala choosing to bless you with this thing and watching to see what you're going to do with it. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose to bless Yusuf with the ability to take care of crops and decipher dreams, Yusuf showed us that with this knowledge, I'm going to serve humanity. I'm going to take care of the people. It's not going to be, Allah blesses you with something, He blesses you with a ni'mah and a rizq, an ability, and then Allah watches to see what you're going to do with it. And how you're going to use it for the best of those around you, right? So this is what we learn from Yusuf, subhanAllah, when he first meets his brothers, and his brothers they almost feel ashamed, like, after all of this, now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made you better. Now we're coming to you begging for food. We're coming to you asking for you to give sadaqah for us because the money that we brought and the crops, it's not worth much. And we're hoping that you're going to give us more food than what we have to trade, right? And there's a sense of like humility and like embarrassment almost, right? That subhanAllah, after all of this is where our little brother is and this is where we are. And them, I'm sure, having thought about their actions and their intentions and the fact that Allah, what Allah has written for people will happen, and that you cannot stop the plan of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They could not stop Allah's plan because Yusuf was going through his life as was planned for him by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So then they're worried about how he's going to deal with them. What would most normal people do at that situation? Right? Punish them somehow. Yes, I'm in this position now, but everything that I went through, I lost my childhood with my family. I grew up alone in a foreign land. I had to learn to deal with all these difficult situations. How am I going to punish you? Look what you put me through. What does Yusuf do? Remember, he's a Muslim. لا تثريب عليكم اليوم. There is no blame upon you today. Who else quoted Yusuf? Who learned from Yusuf? Go ahead, brother. Prophet Muhammad, he says the same thing when he returned to Mecca. His own people were worried. The people in Mecca, the Quraysh were like, after, now Muhammad when he left us, he did hijrah, he was weak, right? Now he comes back with thousands of men in an army and takes over the land that we pushed him away from. What is he going to do to us, right? And they're worried about how he might punish them. And he says, there is no blame upon you today. He learns from Prophet. So this is just incredible. Like, are you guys all with me? This kind of character that you learn to forgive. You don't necessarily forget because you have memory of everything that you went through. But you don't carry it anymore. Because when you carry hatred and spite and revenge in your heart, who does it hurt? Yourself, your own self. Yusuf would not have been able, Allah alam, to reach this situation and this ability and this strength if he had harbored those feelings. It would have held him back. These feelings hold your heart and your mind and your ability back. You have to be able to forgive, right? To forgive somebody, and that's exactly what he does. And it is a beautiful, beautiful way that Yusuf, and then he even, not only does he say there's no blame to you, but he even does what? Makes dua for them. May Allah forgive you. He makes dua for his brothers. After they, when the very first session that we had, we kind of tried to close our eyes and imagine how Yusuf must have felt as a young boy in the pit of this dark well in the middle of nowhere. The fact that he had went with his brothers for the first time, thinking that he's going on this huge outing and they're going to eat and they're going to play and they're going to have a picnic and just excite, all of a sudden they turn their back, and that was just the beginning of everything that he went through. And now he says, may Allah forgive you for what you did to me. Calm and collected, right? And trusting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and knowing that this was all meant to be and everything is going to be okay. So he not only that he forgives them and he makes dua for them, right? And he says to them, go get your family. Go get your father, go get my parents and come back, right? And so subhanallah, his brothers, they go back and he tells them also take with you what? A shirt. Remember when they pretended that they killed Yusuf? They took a shirt that they covered in blood to pretend that the wolf had eaten Yusuf. The shirt comes back. And when they are going back with this shirt, from far away, before they even enter the tribe's area, what does Yaqub say? I smell Yusuf's fragrance. I smell Yusuf's fragrance. His father has been waiting for his son for so long, right? And his people said, like, are you insane? It actually, the ayah says, like, are you going crazy or something? Like, what do you mean you smell Yusuf? Right? Yeah, it says, are you lost in your delusion? Right? Like, and subhanAllah, but Yaqub knows better. And they come back with the shirt and they give it to Yaqub and they put it on his eyes and he gets his eyesight back. And that's when they collect themselves as a tribe, both his parents and everything, and they go back to Egypt. So this is the end. This is when Yusuf and his family are reunited, and he's reunited with his father. And this is how Bani Israel enters Egypt.
He said, I know from the Lord what you do not know. Then he also answered, can I not tell you that I know God?
What? You don't know. He reminds them now, right? And didn't I tell you that I knew that I would see Yusuf again, right? SubhanAllah. So he has his eyesight. The family gets together and they go back to Egypt. They come upon Yusuf again, and they're very, very excited to see him. And Yusuf calls his parents to his. It says like to he must have been on some sort of throne, on maybe some sort of like a higher level than everybody on the bottom, like a stage or something. You can imagine in his position. He calls his parents to him, and this is when his dream comes true. And he says, Ya abati, oh my father, where's that ayah? Is it number 100?
From the wilderness after Shaitan caused Abraham in my heaven. My Lord is gracious to whom he will indeed be the Almighty.
Exactly. قال يا أبت هذا تأويل رؤياي من قبل قد جعلها ربي حقا. Oh my father, this is the manifestation of my dream that I had way back when, and that Allah has made it true. Yusuf is, subhanAllah, very, very happy. And so, we from the beginning sessions that we had, we talked about having that dream and pursuing it and going for it, having that goal. This dream was always at in front of Yusuf's eyes, right? Nothing was going to take him away from this. He knew that his father had taught him that this means that you're going to be a prophet, that you're going to be a great man, that you have great purpose, right? And other people will follow you. And so regardless of, we talked about, for example, the promiscuity and the situation that he lived in the house of the Aziz. That didn't make him lose his goal. Him having to deal with being with criminals for so many years, didn't make him lose his dream. We need to learn from Yusuf to dream big and to have trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is capable of all things, and to have that dream always in front of our sight, and to not let any of the things in the world that we live in now, the Western society that we live in, make us skew from this path of pursuing that which pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Going towards doing something that is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Leaving your legacy, leaving your mark, doing the thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to ask you about. And you say, yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you blessed me with this ni'mah, you blessed me with this ability, and I did my best. And I knew that I had a purpose, I knew that I was Khalifa on earth, and that I did my best. And I kept this dream right in front of my eyes, and I didn't let some fitna over here and some, these things get in my way or pull me down. Yusuf never allowed anything to pull him down. And finally, so many years later, he says, oh, my father, here is the manifestation, the coming true of my dream, right? I have gone through all of this. And he says, finally, and it's only after the shaitan has come between me and my brothers. First, he says, all of this goodness is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and whatever difficulty I went through, it's because the shaitan came between me and my brothers. Again, this is from Yusuf's, his character, right? His character. Who else was like that? We talked about which other prophet kind of used the same kind of language when he was going through a test? Very good, Prophet Ayub. What does he say? Or how does he show the same character? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what does he say? He doesn't blame, these prophets, they don't blame their difficulties on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They blame it on the shaitan. It's from their humility and their character in dealing with their creator, right? All that I went through is a shaitan. It's a shaitan came between me and my brothers, right? And I asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from the shaitan and to forgive them, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually forgives his brothers. And his brothers, it is believed that they actually became like prophets. We know in another ayah is they called al-asbat. That word that's used is actually the description of Prophet Yusuf's brothers. Allahu alam, some of us didn't say that, right? And so Allah forgives them, and Allah is capable of forgiving all things. That's what we learned from this surah. There's an ayah also that the Prophet Yusuf says, Allah is all merciful and all and kind. Azizun Rahim. Where is that ayah? Who's going to find it for me? Innahu huwa al-ghafurur rahim. Very Allah is the one that is forgiving, and he's all merciful. So regardless of the extent of the mistakes, this is actually 98, right? Regardless of the magnificence of somebody's mistake, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can forgive, right? Allah can forgive. And actually, there is no point, like I mentioned before in the surah, in which Yusuf's brothers are mentioned in a negative sense. Like never does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or Yusuf call them liars or call them evil or say, they are never, if you read the surah, they are never described like that at all. Because we always have hope in people's goodness. That's what we learn from Allah. And we should never label, even if people are doing things that are unacceptable, that are evil, that are wrong, we say, what they did is wrong. What they did is unacceptable. And we ask Allah to guide them. And we ask Allah to make them stop doing those actions that are displeasing to Him. But we don't attribute somebody because sometimes if you label somebody, or sometimes even we're so hard on ourselves, we label ourselves that we're so bad that we're not worthy of Allah's mercy. We've done so much that we're not worthy of Allah's forgiveness. And don't ever label yourself as not worthy or as too full of sins. It's a choice you made, and it's a choice you can unmake. It's a choice you can stop making, right? And this is what we learned from Yusuf's brothers, that they actually become good people after that, and when they come back to Egypt, they become one big happy family, and Yusuf prospers and his family prospers. They prosper for many years and many generations until the coming of Musa. Eventually, after Yusuf dies, his tribesmen become the slaves of the Egyptian people and the pharaohs, and that's when Musa eventually comes and saves them. But when they first came into Egypt, they were the father and the brothers of the most important man in Egypt at that time, the man that was helping protect people from becoming hungry. And so they were very well taken care of, and they were very high esteemed until the years passed after Yusuf died. So this is, subhanAllah, what we learn. In terms of talking about, being forgiving to yourself, there's a hadith in the Hadith Qudsi. There's a different. Do you guys have a class on hadith? Sheikh Dr. Ahmed Abu Saif does a hadith, right? Did he tell you guys the difference between a hadith Qudsi and a hadith Nabawi? Did you guys learn that? Go ahead. His own words, right? Although he never makes mistakes, he never says things that are like, what he says is actually filtered by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's always true. But Hadith Nabawi is the Prophet Muhammad's words, when his companions or his wives, his family members, how he speaks. Hadith Qudsi is him saying, Allah says this to you. Right? So one of the Hadith Qudsi's Prophet says that if you come to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with a mountain's worth of sins, He forgives you as long as you ask for forgiveness. And if you come to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the amount of sins from the east to the west, He forgives you if you ask for His forgiveness. Right? There's never too many for Allah. As long as you ask for Allah's forgiveness, how do we ask for forgiveness? What are the steps of making tawbah? How do we think the brothers ask for forgiveness for their actions? Sincere dua, having right intention, change, making sure you change. What else? What are the steps of seeking forgiveness and Allah forgiving you? Good. Believing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can forgive you. Very good, mashallah ta'ala. Anas? Stopping or trying your best to stop. So the first part of asking for forgiveness is actually realizing and saying, yes, I did something wrong. Getting out of your denial phase. Some people do things wrong and say, well, it's not that bad. It's just, it's not haram. It's just maybe makruh, maybe. All of these little things that we try to convince ourselves we're okay. It's, I'm just going to do it this once. And inshallah, when I get older, I won't do it anymore. Somebody else made me do it, right? Huh? So all of these, so the first part of making tawbah is accepting that I made a mistake. And it was my choice, I did it, and it was wrong, right? So going back past the denial phase. And then when you accept that you made mistakes, turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and say, oh, as long as right away, there's no delay. Oh, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I made this mistake and I feel guilty. So feeling the sense of shame and guilt in front of your Creator. I feel bad. I made this mistake and I feel bad about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So realizing, accepting, feeling a sense of shame and guilt, asking for forgiveness. Oh Allah, forgive me. Forgive me. And then promising yourself and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I'm not going to do it again. Oh Allah, I promise you that I will do my best to not do it again. How are you going to do your best to not do it again? What's do my best? Stay away from those who may be leading to do this. Stay away from the thing that may be, maybe your phone or your computer or whatever, or the person or what is the thing that's making me do something wrong? That's how I'm going to do my best. I'm actually going to leave that thing behind. I'm going to leave this place that you go to, every time you go there, you leave feeling very guilty. You have to determine your plan of action. You can't just say, I'm never going to do it again. Well, khalas. That's the end. You have to have, how am I going to make sure I don't do it again? However, humans are human. And Allah knows that although you accepted your mistake and you felt guilty and you asked for forgiveness and you promised that you're going to make changes in your life, you might fall into the same mistake. And this cycle repeats itself. Allah created us to make mistakes and to ask for His forgiveness. If we were perfect, then He would have gotten rid of us and made new people that make mistakes and ask for Allah's forgiveness. It's part of being human. But the part of being human is learning from the first human, Adam. As soon as he made a mistake, felt shame, he asked for forgiveness. What do I say, Allah? What do I do, Allah? And then we're all good. And so, subhanAllah, this is also what we learn from seeking forgiveness, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was able to forgive, and Yusuf was able to forgive the actions of his brothers. One last thing, what time is it? Oh, time to break. 10 minutes? There's different types of forgiveness. So there's different types of mistakes and different ways to ask for. If you make a mistake towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Then your discussion of forgiveness is between you and Allah, right? Like you didn't pray all day, right? Whatever, something that is a sin that displeases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then you ask Allah to forgive you and to help you plan your day properly and to put on your alarm and whatever so that you don't miss your prayers. But there is for something that you do that's wrong between you and another individual, another human. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, that's not my business. You gotta ask that person's forgiveness before Yawm al-Qiyamah. Because on the day of judgment, nobody's gonna forgive anybody else. And if you've hurt somebody, said something about somebody, said something bad about them, then they will be able to take your good deeds from you. So if you realize at some point that you did something bad towards somebody else, you must seek forgiveness from that person. Sorry, the other day I was with, whatever, I hurt you, and seek forgiveness from that person, and that person will forgive you most likely, inshallah, in this dunya. When you seek forgiveness from that person, then it clears that thing between you and they can't take your rewards. Go ahead.
And also sometimes, like, if you don't want to ask that person for forgiveness, like, if you talk about them, you don't want to tell them, like, I talked about you can make that person.
Yes, to the same people. You said something bad about somebody to a group of people, you say something good about that person and praise that person to the same group of people. Right? And you say, I should not have said that about them, I'm mistaken about them. So trying to make up your mistake towards somebody else. Mm-hmm. You ask Allah, you make dua for them basically. Oh Allah, I wronged this person at some time, but oh Allah, give that person health, make dua for that person, inshallah, and that will kind of come back and help you. Yes, it says when they came back, Abati, it says both his parents. Yes. No. His mother died. Because it said that his dream says the sun and the moon and my brothers. And the sun and the moon and his brothers. This is a very good question, actually. Maybe I don't want to say anything, but he does have a stepmother, the mother of his brothers. Yeah. If his mom was there. His mom was there. Yes, it is said that his mother died. We need to ask Sheikh Ahmed Abu Saif. Yeah. Was it actually his mother or his stepmother that was? Yeah, we have to ask who. But it says my parents and my brothers. Anything else? Good questions, mashallah, guys. You guys love to stop me on questions. It happened to me more than once in this class. It means you guys are on top of your game.
I don't know, like, it's just so crazy to me, you know how, like, they started when he was, like, literally 10, and I think that when you're so little, like, we just say, oh, he's a prophet, but, like, he was actually a person who had to, I think just people, like, oh, he's a prophet, you know, but, like,
Yeah. Why is this story? This goes back to why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put this story in the Quran. Why is this story in the Quran? In so much detail. Because Prophet Muhammad was going through a hard time. Allah was telling him, you're going to be okay, just like Yusuf. And that there are believers until the end of time that will go through a hard time. And Allah is telling us, you're going to be okay. Right? So I have to pull this together because it's time to pray in 5 minutes, just in case somebody needs to make wudu or stretch or anything. Inshallah, next time, we will wrap up the end of the surah. Did you have a question, Hannes? What did you want to say? Yeah. It can, I guess it depends, it can if it's defined by your intention, So sometimes you hear some speakers will say, before I became a Muslim, I used to like be a gangster or whatever, right? And so he's teaching people. You guys have never heard that before? Yeah. Yeah. So this is them, and their intention is not necessarily to flaunt that, oh, I used to be bad. It's just to say that you can make a huge change. It's your intention. But if your intention to say, if the way you say it, I used to do this bad thing and get away with it is because you're showing off, and this is the modern culture. Being bad is a show-off thing, like being like, right? And people expose themselves on social media and to their friends because showing off. Showing off, doing something that's displeasing to Allah. It's kind of, So it actually goes through, if your intention is to others to learn from you, that you can make a complete 180, and that you can go from being a gangster to a sheikh, that's good. You have the right intention. You're teaching others to have hope in themselves and their abilities. But if your intention is to show off, well, then that's a whole different story. Your sin can get in the way. Because part of the asking for forgiveness is feeling really bad about it, like disgusted with yourself for displeasing Allah. So if you're showing off, that means you're not disgusted with yourself, right? Does that make sense, Anas? Yeah. That's a good question. Jazakumullah khairan. So inshallah, I'll see you guys next week. We're going to wrap up the surah, inshallah, and we'll go from there. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.